welcome to our deep dive into how storytelling shapes our understanding of nature and, more importantly, what we do about it. You've sent over a really interesting mix
Yeah.
from the hard science of how stories work on our brains
Right.
to real-world examples of communities using narratives to protect the places they love.
It seems like you're after more than just pretty nature photos here.
Oh, absolutely.
It seems like you want to know how stories make us care,
Yes.
how they bridge that gap between knowing about environmental issues
Right.
and actually being moved to act.
Absolutely. And a lot of the research you've included gets into the nitty-gritty of why stories are so powerful.
Yeah.
It's not just that they're entertaining.
Right.
It turns out our brains are wired to respond to them in a way that straight facts just don't achieve.
One study that really jumped out at me
Okay.
found that when people hear a story, the same areas of their brain light up as if they were experiencing those events firsthand.
Oh, wow.
So it's not just passive listening.
Yep.
Our brains are actively simulating the emotions, the sensations,
Yeah.
even the decision-making processes of the characters.
So it's like a virtual reality experience for our empathy.
Exactly.
No wonder a story about a family displaced by rising sea levels hits harder than a statistic about coastal erosion.
And that emotional connection is key.
Okay.
Research shows that activating those empathy centers in the brain
Yeah.
makes us far more likely to remember the information.
Right.
And even more importantly,
Okay.
to take action.
That makes me think about all the tips and tricks you included for crafting our own nature stories.
Yeah.
It's not just about professional writers or filmmakers.
Right.
It seems like anyone can tap into this power.
Everyone has a nature story to tell. Think about the last time you went for a walk in the woods.
Yeah.
Or even just sat in your backyard. What details stuck with you?
Right.
What did you see?
Yeah.
Hear? How did that experience make you feel?
One article talked about how framing even a simple experience as a journey can make it more compelling.
Right.
Like instead of saying I went for a hike, you could say I set out to uncover the hidden waterfalls at the edge of town.
Okay.
Instantly, there's a sense of purpose and discovery.
And that's where the structure tips come in handy.
Yeah.
A lot of the sources emphasize the power of a classic beginning, middle, and end.
Okay.
Even for short personal stories, you introduce your audience to the setting the characters.
Right.
Then there's some kind of challenge or conflict, and finally a resolution,
Okay.
which might be a lesson learned, a change in perspective,
Right.
or even just a moment of awe.
And they stress the importance of sensory details.
Yes.
It's not just about telling people about the beauty of a sunset.
right.
It's about using language that helps them experience it. The fiery hues of orange and pink, the way the light dances on the water, maybe even the feeling of the cool breeze on your skin.
It's about creating an immersive experience for your audience.
I like that.
And don't be afraid to use metaphors or similes
Right.
to make those descriptions even more vivid.
Yeah.
One example that stuck with me was describing a forest as holding its breath,
Oh, wow.
instead of just saying it was quiet.
Interesting.
It paints such a powerful image.
It's like you're transporting your listener right into that moment with you.
Exactly.
And speaking of connection, a lot of what you sent focuses on how personal stories can scale up to become powerful community narratives.
It's more than just sharing memories of a place.
Yeah.
Though that's certainly a powerful starting point.
Right.
It's about recognizing how our individual experiences connect to a larger web of relationships with other people, with the land itself, even with the history and culture of a place.
One really inspiring example was a community in the Southwest that created an oral history project,
Okay.
documenting how their relationship with their local river had changed over generations. They gathered stories from elders who remembered swimming in the river as children, farmers who relied on it for irrigation,
Yeah.
and young activists fighting to protect it from pollution.
By weaving those individual threads together, they created a powerful tapestry
Yeah.
that showed how the river was more than just a body of water.
Right.
It was a lifeline, a source of identity,
Right.
and a symbol of their community's resilience.
And it wasn't just about looking back.
Right.
Those stories became a catalyst for action. They used them to advocate for stronger environmental protections, to educate younger generations about the importance of the river,
Right.
and to build a stronger sense of shared purpose within the community.
It's a powerful example of how storytelling can move beyond entertainment or nostalgia
Yeah.
and become a force for positive change.
And speaking of positive change, you also included some really fascinating material about how nature narratives can be a source of healing, both individually and collectively.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about how stories connect us to nature and inspire us to protect it.
Right.
But you've also highlighted how they can help us heal from trauma, build resilience, and find solace in the face of challenging times.
It seems like you're particularly interested in ecotherapy based on the sources you've shared.
Yeah, the idea that spending time in nature,
Right.
combined with reflecting on our experiences through storytelling, can actually be therapeutic, really caught my attention. But to be honest, I'm not totally clear on what ecotherapy actually is.
It's a broad term encompassing a range of practices that use nature as a key element in supporting mental, emotional, and even physical well-being.
Okay.
It could involve something as simple as taking a mindful walk in the woods,
Right.
gardening, or even just sitting by a window and observing the birds.
So where does storytelling come in?
It can play a powerful role in helping us process our experiences in nature, make sense of them, and connect them to our own personal narratives.
Okay, that makes sense. One article talked about how even challenging experiences in nature, like getting lost on a hike
Right.
or encountering a wild animal, can be transformed into stories that help us build resilience and overcome fear.
It's about reframing those experiences, finding the meaning in them, and recognizing the strength we can draw from navigating those challenges.
Another source talked about how nature journaling can be a form of ecotherapy.
Right.
The simple act of writing down your observations, thoughts, and feelings while you're out in nature can be incredibly grounding and therapeutic.
It helps you slow down,
Yeah.
pay attention to the details, and connect with your senses.
Right.
And over time, those journal entries can become a powerful record of your personal journey, your relationship with nature, and your own growth.
It's almost like you're creating a dialogue with nature itself through your writing.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is that this idea of nature as a healer is woven into so many indigenous stories and folklore traditions.
It's not just a modern concept.
Right.
It's something that cultures around the world have recognized for centuries. Many indigenous cultures view nature as a source of wisdom, healing, and spiritual connection.
One of the articles you sent talked about how these traditional stories often use animal characters or nature metaphors
Right.
to teach important lessons about resilience, balance, and interconnectedness.
For example, there's a Cherokee story about the cedar tree, which is known for its strength and ability to withstand harsh conditions.
Oh, wow.
The story tells of how the cedar tree was chosen to be the medicine tree because it could endure the weight of the world's sorrows and still stand tall.
That's a beautiful metaphor for the resilience we all have within us,
Right.
even in the face of adversity. And it reminds us that nature can be a source of strength and healing, even when times are tough.
These stories aren't just ancient wisdom, they're incredibly relevant to the challenges we face today.
Right.
They remind us that we're not separate from nature. We're part of a delicate web of life, and we need to find ways to live in harmony with the natural world if we want to thrive.
And speaking of relevance, we've been talking a lot about traditional storytelling.
Right.
But what about the role of technology in sharing these nature narratives?
Yeah.
You included a ton of stuff about how digital platforms are changing the game.
Technology has opened up incredible opportunities for sharing stories in ways that were never possible before.
Yeah.
We're no longer limited by geography or traditional media gatekeepers.
Right.
Anyone with a smartphone can become a nature storyteller and reach a global audience.
It's pretty amazing to think about.
It is.
You could be hiking in a remote forest, capture a stunning photo of a rare bird, and share it with the world in an instant.
And it's not just about sharing beautiful images.
Right.
Platforms like YouTube and Vimeo allow people to create and share documentaries, short films, and even virtual reality experiences that immerse viewers in the wonders of nature.
One example that really stood out was a project that used 360-degree video to create a virtual tour of a coral reef,
Okay.
allowing viewers to experience the vibrant ecosystem firsthand,
Right.
even if they couldn't physically travel there.
It's a powerful way to create empathy and understanding for places and species that might feel distant or abstract to people. And it's not just about visual storytelling.
Right.
Podcasts, like the one we're recording right now,
Yeah.
are a fantastic way to explore complex environmental issues in depth, weaving together personal stories, scientific insights, and expert interviews.
Podcasts are a great example of how technology can create a sense of intimacy and connection.
Yeah.
Even when you're listening to someone across the world, it's like having a conversation with a friend who's sharing their passion for nature with you.
And then there's the incredible power of social media to connect people around shared environmental concerns.
Right.
amplify voices and mobilize for action. Platforms like Instagram and Facebook have become powerful tools for advocacy and awareness raising.
We see it all the time.
Yeah.
A single photo of a polluted beach or a deforestation site can go viral, sparking outrage and motivating people to demand change.
And hashtags like #ClimateAction or #SaveOurForests can unite millions of people around the world, creating a sense of collective purpose and inspiring action.
But it's not all sunshine and roses.
Right.
There are some real challenges that come with using technology to tell nature stories.
Right? Absolutely.
Okay.
One of the biggest challenges is navigating the sea of misinformation that's out there.
Right.
It can be difficult for people to distinguish between credible sources and misleading or even harmful information.
That's a real concern.
Yeah.
One of the sources you sent talked about the rise of greenwashing, where companies or organizations use misleading marketing to make themselves appear more environmentally friendly than they actually are.
It's a tactic that exploits people's desire to make ethical choices and can undermine genuine efforts to address environmental problems.
So how do we, as storytellers, as consumers of information, even just as concerned citizens, navigate this landscape?
It's crucial to develop critical thinking skills,
Okay.
to question the information we encounter, and to be mindful of potential biases.
The sources emphasize the importance of looking for evidence-based information, checking sources, and being wary of sensationalized headlines or claims that seem too good to be true.
And it's also important to support organizations and individuals who are committed to ethical and responsible storytelling.
Right.
Look for those who are transparent about their sources,
Yeah.
who are willing to engage in constructive dialogue, and who are accountable for the information they share.
It's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's about being informed and discerning consumers of information.
Yeah.
We have a responsibility to be critical thinkers, to question what we see and hear,
Right.
and to use our voices to amplify truthful and impactful stories.
And speaking of using our voices, that brings us to the heart of this deep dive, your role in the narrative.
Okay.
We've talked about the science, the techniques, the challenges, but ultimately it comes down to you, the listener, and your unique perspective.
That's right. We've explored a ton of information.
Yeah.
But the real question is, what will you do with it?
Right.
How will you become a part of this story? It can feel a bit overwhelming, to be honest.
Yeah.
We've talked about the science of storytelling, the power of community narratives, the nuances of digital platforms. Where do I even begin?
The beauty is you don't need a fancy degree or 1 million followers to be a powerful nature storyteller. It starts with paying attention to the world around you. What sparks your curiosity? What makes your heart ache? What fills you with joy?
One of the sources talked about keeping a wonder journal, basically just jotting down things that catch your eye or make you think differently about nature, like noticing how a spiderweb glistens in the morning dew or how the wind whispers through a particular tree.
Those small moments of observation are like seeds for stories. They help you connect with the natural world on a deeper level and start to see the extraordinary in the ordinary.
It's about shifting our perspective from seeing nature as a backdrop to recognizing it as an active character in our lives, with its own stories to tell.
Exactly. And once you start paying attention, you'll be surprised by how many stories are waiting to be discovered right in your own backyard or neighborhood.
And it doesn't have to be a novel or a documentary.
Right.
Sharing a simple photo on social media with a thoughtful caption about why that place matters to you can be a powerful act of storytelling.
Or striking up a conversation with a friend about a recent hike and how it made you feel more connected to nature. These seemingly small acts can have a ripple effect, inspiring others to pay attention and appreciate the natural world in their own lives.
It's about meeting people where they are and finding ways to make nature relevant to their everyday experiences.
You know, one of the sources talked about the importance of focusing on what you love about nature rather than just what you're trying to save it from.
That really resonated with me. Sometimes the environmental movement can feel so heavy, so focused on problems. But celebrating the beauty, the wonder, the joy we find in nature can be just as powerful a motivator for action.
It helps people connect with that sense of awe and wonder that's so essential for fostering a love of the natural world.
Right.
And that love is ultimately what will drive us to protect it.
It's like the old saying, people protect what they love.
Exactly.
And to love something, you have to know it, to experience it, to be moved by it.
Yeah.
That's where storytelling comes in.
You've given us so much to think about with this collection of sources. We've explored the science of how stories work on our brains, the power of community narratives to inspire action, the healing potential of ecotherapy, and the ways technology can amplify our voices.
But ultimately, it comes back to each of us as individuals choosing to engage with nature, to find our own stories and to share them with the world.
Whether you're writing in a journal, sharing a photo online, or simply telling a story to a friend, you have the power to make a difference. Your story matters.
So get out there, explore, reflect, and tell your story. The world needs to hear it.